Statistics are now saying that possibly up to 50% of Americans believe that ghosts do exist. And many of those who feel this way feel it because they've experienced something so personal and so extraordinary that there's no doubt in their minds that spirits do exist. So I decided I would poll people around me, people I've known for years, some of whom I've known for over 20 years, people I work with every day, if they've ever had experiences. And sure enough, they have. So here are their stories. I want to thank each and every one of them. And some of them are very personal and right from the heart. We hope you enjoy them. And the question is, do you believe in ghosts? Give you an idea that something might be.
Both of the experiences that I can really elaborate on happened when we lived in California at the corner of Crosby and Spalding. At that time, I was around 7 or 8 years old. I was in my room playing, and all of a sudden, a little Chinese boy walked into my room and into my closet. So I went to the closet, I opened the door, and he was sitting there, and he turned and smiled at me. I asked him, "What are you doing in my closet?" He just smiled at me, never said anything. I closed the door, I opened it again, he was gone. Both of the experiences happened during that time. This one involved a child. Well, at that time, my younger sister, the baby girl, and I had to sleep in the same bed. And I was very protective of her, always had been growing up. Well, I was lying there with my arm over her arm, and all of a sudden, and I'm lying on my stomach, all of a sudden I felt a hand press down on my back. And I heard a woman's voice say, The hand released, and I was so scared I would not look up. I didn't turn around, I didn't do anything, I just laid there.
Now, did you recognize the voice?
No, it was just a female voice. And at the time, you know, it was just my mom, because she was a divorced, single mom and raising 2 girls. There were no other visitors in the home. So where did the hand come from? And where did the voice come from? I haven't the slightest idea. I did not hear anyone walk in, nor did I hear anyone leave. I just felt the hand removed.
Since then, have you had any experiences?
As an adult, no.
No. So isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
But so it has definitely convinced you that spirits do exist.
Yeah, that, and the fact that I just believe. My best friend just came back from South Carolina, and you know, they believe in ghosts there. She said she saw ghosts. So I told her, I said, I believe.
I believe too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your story.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.
Alrighty.
June, I do believe ghosts exist, and the reason I think so is because I experienced it when I was about maybe 12 or 13 years old. My auntie had brought a Ouija board for her kids during Christmas time. And we just happened to go over to visit, and I was looking at some of their presents, and I happened to notice the Ouija board. And I just started messing around with it, and the letters and everything started moving on its own, and I didn't think anything about it because, you know, I wasn't familiar with the so-called Ouija board. And after I got home, my sister and I shared a bedroom, and all of a sudden, when we got ready to go to sleep at night, we heard footsteps going up and down the hallway, up and down the hallway. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? You know, and it scared us. So we started screaming, and my dad came in, and he was like, you know, he turned the lights off, and all of a sudden he started hearing the footsteps going up and down the hallway, up and down the hallway. But everybody was going to bed, wasn't nobody there. So yeah, I believe in ghosts. And all of a sudden he just told us, just go to bed. I mean, before you go to bed, say a prayer to God and call out God's name, and everything will be okay. And as soon as we did that, we didn't hear any more footsteps. So yeah, I believe bad spirits, ghosts, or whatever you call them, they exist.
Now, do you believe that was A bad spirit that came into your home?
I don't know, because that was the first time that I experienced it, and I really don't know. I mean, it didn't try to harm us or anything, so I couldn't say.
And was that the only time in your life that you remember?
That was the only time.
And it stands out, huh?
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever.
And so it's convinced you that spirits do exist.
Oh yeah.
us.
I mean, I always read, that spirits do exist. Bad spirits, good spirits, they exist. Yes.
So you are a believer.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, Sheila.
You're welcome, Jill.
And the first part of my story relates to the second part of my story. But I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I had this cousin, and I guess you could say she was going through the Ouija board stage. But every time she came over to the house, she brought the Ouija board with her. And it was just me and her playing, and no adults watching us or anything. So anyway, I started asking questions about when would my mama die? How old would she be? And the Ouija board, we wasn't pushing it or anything. It went to 35. Then I asked it how long after my mama died would my grandparents die? And it went to the number 1 and 3, like 13 years. Okay. So it just floored me that my mother was going to die at 35. I mean, that just stuck with me, that she was going to die at 35. So anyway, fast forward to on Thanksgiving Day, November 26, 1975, my mother was shot and killed by her boyfriend on Thanksgiving morning. And she was 35 years old. She would have been 36 in that following January. So anyway, she was on life support for 2 days, and then he had shot her in the head, so she died. So I had to go through many devastating. I mean, that was the worst thing that had ever happened to me in my entire life, and I had to go through many psychiatrists and psychologists and talk to many.
And you were how old?
People. I was 17. I had just turned 17 in October. So anyway, and my mother and I had a contentious, I guess you could say, like, relationship. We were more like sisters than we were mother-daughter. And she just seemed, I was angry when she died. I was pissed off because it was like she wouldn't put nothing. She was going to be happy, and then her kids didn't come before her happiness. Let's just say that way. But anyway, I was in a hospital, and I was going through hypnosis. They was going to do some hypnosis, and it was a group setting, and the counselor was put my chair in the middle of the room, and there was people sitting in a circle around me, and then there was this little coffee table sitting there with like a lamp sitting on it, but the room was dark. The light wasn't on the lamp or nothing. So anyway, the whole object of the thing was he was going to hypnotize me and ask me questions about my mother. And so anyway, I remember I wasn't hypnotized. I didn't feel like I was, out of it, or I knew. And so he started asking me questions, and I'm really sorry I can't remember the questions he was asking me, but they was all concerning my mother, and I was answering them, and all at once, that lamp, with nobody near it or anything, that was sitting on that coffee table, flew across the room into the middle of the floor, and everybody in there screamed, and I about jumped out of my skin because everybody was like, "That's your mama." And so I don't know if hers, I like to think hers was a good experience, or if she was just tired of me talking about her, or, you know, I'm not sure, but I want to say hers was a good experience. But the Ouija board's definitely evil, because as my daughter got old enough and was going through the Ouija thing, she couldn't play it unless I was sitting there. She couldn't ask, you know, she could just ask, am I ever going to have a boyfriend? Am I going to get married? Stuff like that. I would not let her ask, you know, awful questions, because I feel like you're inviting evil into your life.
So that convinced you for sure that spirits?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I know there's evil spirits. It says so in the Bible. And, you know, and I believe there's good ones too, just like angels and, you know, your guardian angels and stuff like that. But that was definitely an experience when that lamp come off, because everybody talked about that for days. It's been a long time, and it gets easier with time. So the pain's always still there, but it gets easier.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mira.
My experience?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I was young, high school, so I have the church members, a friend. So one day we went to a small church at night time. So we trying to, you know, pray. So everybody sits someplace, everybody separate the seat, and then we're starting the pray. And then after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, some reason they stop. Everybody stop, and then we just talking about something happened in the room. So, hey, can you feel something? Wow, you know, someone standing, you know, the back there, and then someone watching me. Oh yeah. And then someone, you know, can you feel that someone stand over there? Some, you know, other friends said, you know, someone stand over there, he watching me. And then someone, can you hear that? Someone, you know, stepped on the floor, something, you know, walk, some, you know, kind of that. So, wow. And then we said, oh my God, we better go home. And then we just stand out there, we just let it ride.
Okay, now can you describe the sound of what you heard? The
No,
sound.
just, you know, something
Walking. Can you make it kind of the sound?
something, you know, the
Oh, okay.
something like that. In a field, something
And
like
everyone there.
that. Yeah, and then I can feel someone looking me. You know, stand over there, and then it's just. But you know, that time I was, you know, the closed eyes, but I can feel that something stand beside me and then watching me, and then oh my God, you know, what is that? What is that? You know, but keep praying. But it's my head is something, my mind is something. What is that? What is that?
Yeah.
You know, after that, oh my God, I cannot do. You know, I cannot.
So
do
since
anymore.
then, you believe strongly that spirits do exist.
Yeah.
No doubt in your mind.
Something in the world.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Could you tell us about it?
Had experience when my cousin passed. Had to pretty much stay in her home, and during that course of time, it felt like her presence was just there, like through the night.
Okay. Can you give us specifically what you felt that made you believe she was there?
I mean, you feel like it'd be like a gust of wind come through, and then you can smell it.
You mean like perfume? Or?
Yeah, her perfume that she wore.
Okay. And how did you feel after? Is that the only time that you experienced anything that you would say would be a spirit, or?
Pretty much so, yeah. You know, I had my cousin in there with me, and we both like, we kind of like just looking around, but you know, pretty much yes.
So that one experience in your entire life has convinced you, beyond a doubt, that there are ghosts out there?
Well, I mean, I can't just say if they are or not. I just
But
had
are
a
you
feeling
convinced?
then. I had
Are
a
you
feeling then
convinced?
that that she was there watching us.
So are you convinced?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time and for your story.
All right.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in spirits, yes.
Good spirits only?
Yes,
Only
good spirits. But it's an experience that you will never forget. I can recall when my grandmother passed away. My grandmother pretty much raised me until I was 15 years old, and of course until her terminal illness took her away from us. And so with that, I had to separate from the home that I grew up in to my mom's home. My mom was young when I was born, and so she put me in the care of my paternal grandmother. And so again, when my grandmother passed, I moved with my mom, and I just remember sitting in the room that I was in, and of course, it being a foreign, it was something very foreign to me to live with my mom and to be brought up very much differently, because my mom was really strict, whereas my grandmother was very loving. Not to say my mom didn't love me, but she showed a much different way than what I was used to. And so one night I cried, I could not go to sleep. And we're talking about December, January of 2002. So it was cold, it had just snowed, so the snow was melting on the ground. And so you're talking 10-degree weather at night. And all I can remember was this gush of wind, and I had very sheer type of curtains. So you could literally see the brush of wind and I could feel it across my face, and I instantly went to sleep. I sat and I cried, I know, for an hour. But it wasn't until I felt that wind where I immediately fell into a deep sleep. I'll never forget it. And I knew then that it was my grandmother.
And that convinced you, beyond a doubt?
Beyond a doubt.
Beyond a doubt. The only time in your life?
The only close encounter I ever had with a spirit was then. I've had other family members to pass on, but that moment definitely convinced me that yes, spirits do exist.
Well, thank you for your story. I
No
appreciate
problem.
it. Thanks.
Yes, I do believe in ghosts.
And why?
It's because one time I was working and I smelled the scent of my grandma, and my grandma was passed away 10 years ago.
Oh, and was it her perfume or?
Yeah, her perfume. Every time she go to church, that's what her smell
Uh-huh.
to go out.
And so this was 10 years later.
Yes,
So after that you were a believer?
yeah, I do believe.
Yeah, and so there are no other encounters or anything, but just that was enough to convince you?
Yes,
Great. Okay, well, thank you for your story.
you're welcome.
Ever since I was a child, growing up, I've always heard ghost stories and stories about spirits from everyone else. And I did kind of believe, through the years of ghosts and spirits. In 1999, I bought a house up in Davison, Michigan. I moved in, got it all settled and everything, and I'd work nights. When I come home, I'd be sleeping in the bed, and I'd get woke up by someone screaming, "Hey," in my ear. It was just constant, and it'd always wake me up. It was going on for the first week or two, and then I got invited over to a neighbor's house, and they asked me if I've heard things in the home, and I said, yeah. I told them, someone screaming "hey" in my ear, and then one time I was watching TV and I hear rumbling in the kitchen. I thought maybe there was mice or rats or something in the kitchen. And so I'd go in the kitchen and nothing. It all stopped. we'd do that a few times. And when I was at the neighbors, they told me that the man named John died in the home, and his daughter felt his presence when she was cleaning up the home. And it come to find out that he woke up one morning, was making a pot of coffee, standing at the kitchen window, looking out with a cigarette in his hand, and he had a heart attack and died. And they found him standing up in the kitchen. And after I get home, you go to bed, and I still get woken up by somebody screaming, "Hey," in my ear. It would go on for another week. Finally, I got fed up, and I said, "John, you have died. This is my house now. You need to leave." Then after that, I had no problems in the house.
Now, can you describe his voice?
It was just a high-pitched screaming, "Hey." And I found out later on that the bedroom that I chose to sleep in, his wife died in that bedroom.
My.
So it was just a constant somebody screaming, "Hey," in my ear.
Now, throughout the years, is there any other experience that you would like to share with us?
A lot of them would be so long ago. There's one time I spent a night in a hotel room, and in the other part of the room I kept my luggage, and I get woke up by ruffling with my bags into that room. So I get up to go in there, see if there was anybody in there, because it sounded like they were unzipping my suitcases.
Oh my gosh.
And rumbling through my stuff. When I get up, I go into that room, and everything was intact. They were zipped up and everything.
So I gather that you are now a true believer that spirits do exist.
I do believe.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.